Hey YNR fans! Welcome to YNR Trends, your young and the restless updates, shocking spoilers, and all the drama. So grab your coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right into Genoa City's hottest gossip. The world of the young and the restless has always thrived on its blend of raw emotion, betrayal, passionate connections, and the kind of drama that pulls viewers into every scene as if they were living in Genoa City themselves. Among all the storylines that have graced the soap over decades, certain moments stand out because of the sheer shock value, the emotional weight, and the way the repercussions ripple through the lives of multiple characters long after the actual scene plays out. The moment Lily punched Phyllis and uttered 3 words that made Kane regret everything in their relationship is one of those turning points, not just because of the physical blow or the fiery confrontation, but because of what it represents in the evolution of Lily's character, the fragility of Kane's decisions, and the unpredictable way Phyllis always manages to place herself in the center of conflicts that destroy trust and relationships. To understand the gravity of Lily physically striking Phyllis, you have to place it in the context of who Lily has been throughout her run on the show. Lily is not a character who typically leads with violence. She is someone who has been through pain, tragedy, and betrayal, but she has often been portrayed as grounded, moral, and sensitive. She's the kind of woman who has endured heartbreak, raised children with resilience, and faced loss while maintaining a core of strength that isn't always expressed in physical aggression. So for Lily to reach a breaking point where her frustration and anger with Phyllis boiled over into a punch, it tells viewers that the situation had escalated beyond words, beyond reason, and into a space where Lily felt that nothing else would convey her rage or her boundary more clearly. It wasn't just about the punch, it was about the symbolism of a woman who had been pushed too far, especially by another woman who has often made choices that destabilize the lives of others for her own gain. Phyllis, of course, is no stranger to being at the center of chaos. She has a long history of making moves that leave others reeling. Whether it's through manipulation, seduction, or inserting herself into situations with questionable motives, Phyllis has often left wreckage behind. In this case, her involvement with Kane, whether direct or indirect, stirred up emotions that could not be contained. Kane and Lily's marriage has always been a complicated story, filled with love, betrayal, forgiveness, and the constant tug-of-war between trying to hold on to what they've built and the temptation to let go when the wounds become too deep. When Phyllis becomes part of that dynamic, it creates an explosive triangle where motives get blurred and trust collapses. The punch Lily delivered can be seen not just as an impulsive reaction to something Phyllis did or said, but as a culmination of years of frustration with women like Phyllis intruding into her marriage and men like Kane leaving openings for that intrusion to occur. But the real turning point of this storyline was not the punch itself, dramatic as it was. It was the 3 words Lily delivered immediately after, words that cut through Kane more deeply than any physical blow could. "We are done." 3 simple words, but loaded with years of love, betrayal, pain, and regret. For Kane, those words carried a finality that perhaps he had always feared but never truly believed would come to pass. Kane has lived a life marked by lies, deceptions, and moments where he has gambled with Lily's trust, always believing that he could find a way back into her good graces because their bond was so strong. Every time he slipped, he leaned on the depth of their connection to save him. But when Lily said those 3 words, it was a line in the sand, an undeniable statement that her patience had run out and the damage was beyond repair. Kane's regret in this moment is not just about losing Lily's love. It's about realizing that he had underestimated the weight of his actions and overestimated the strength of her forgiveness. For years, Kane relied on the pattern of making mistakes, offering apologies, and being granted another chance. That cycle had become almost predictable. But when Phyllis's involvement added fuel to the fire, and Lily punctuated the moment with physical anger followed by verbal closure, Kane was forced to confront the possibility that there would be no cycle this time. Regret flooded him because he wasn't just facing a temporary separation, he was facing the real, tangible loss of the woman who had stood by him through more than most partners would ever endure. The beauty and heartbreak of this moment lies in the layers of emotional truth. From Lily's perspective, those 3 words were not spoken lightly. She has always fought for her marriage, sometimes against her own best interest, because she believed in Cain, because she loved him, and because she wanted stability for their family. For her to say we are done meant she had reached a breaking point where her own self-worth mattered more than holding on to a relationship that repeatedly left her wounded. It was her way of reclaiming her power, of stating that no matter how much she had invested, she would no longer tolerate being hurt in the same ways. It was also a moment of evolution for Lily as a character, showing that she wasn't going to be defined by endurance alone, she was also capable of walking away when enough was enough. For Phyllis, the confrontation and the punch serve as a reflection of her role as a catalyst. Phyllis often provokes reactions, and in this case, she became the embodiment of everything Lily resented: temptation, betrayal, and interference. Even if Phyllis's involvement was more symbolic than literal in the downfall of Cain and Lily's marriage at this point, she represented the kind of destructive influence that always seemed to hover around their union. For Phyllis, being punched might sting physically, but emotionally, she thrives on being the center of attention, on knowing she has power to provoke. In many ways, Lily's anger validates Phyllis's role in the drama, even as it costs Lily dearly in terms of composure and Cain in terms of his marriage. For Cain, regret is not a fleeting emotion here. It is a heavy, suffocating weight that forces him to reflect on every decision that led him to this point. Regret is remembering the moments of happiness with Lily and realizing how carelessly he allowed them to slip away. It's knowing that his actions made room for Phyllis or anyone else to step in and drive a wedge into his marriage. It's recognizing that he didn't just betray Lily once or twice, he created a pattern of choices that eroded the trust she had in him. When Lily said those 3 words, she wasn't reacting to a single mistake. She was reacting to years of disappointment, years of hoping for change that never fully came, and years of being strong enough to forgive but never strong enough to forget. The ripple effects of this moment in Genoa City go beyond just the 3 characters involved. Other characters who have been tied to Cain and Lily, whether through family, friendship, or business, are inevitably affected. Their children are caught in the middle, forced to navigate the fracture of a family that once seemed unbreakable. Friends and allies take sides, either supporting Lily's decision to finally cut ties or sympathizing with Cain's regret and his desire for redemption. And Phyllis, as always, walks away with the satisfaction of having left her mark on yet another couple, even if it comes at the expense of their happiness. From a storytelling perspective, this scene is significant because it forces characters to grow. Lily grows by asserting her independence and valuing her self-respect above her marriage. Cain grows, or at least is given the opportunity to grow, by sitting in the discomfort of regret without immediate forgiveness to cushion him. And Phyllis continues to grow into her role as the troublemaker whose presence pushes others to their breaking points. The writers create a moment that not only shocks viewers with its physical and emotional intensity but also sets up a storyline rich with consequences that can unfold over weeks, months, or even years. In soap operas, breakups are never just about the couple. They are about the fallout, the shifting alliances, the secrets that surface in the aftermath, and the possibility of redemption or revenge. Lily's punch and her 3 words of finality create a domino effect. Cain may try to win her back, but the dynamic has shifted permanently. Even if they were to reconcile down the line, the memory of this moment will always linger. It becomes part of their history, a scar that doesn't fully heal. Lily, meanwhile, has to navigate life as a woman who has finally put her foot down, who has chosen herself over the man she once thought she couldn't live without. That opens the door for new romances, new storylines, and new challenges that test her in different ways. Phyllis, as always, will find another fire to fan, another couple to unsettle, another storyline to weave herself into, because that is her nature. The audience, watching this play out, feels the full spectrum of emotion. There is satisfaction in seeing Lily stand up for herself, shock in watching her punch Phyllis, heartbreak in hearing her end things with Cain, and curiosity about what comes next. The best soap opera moments are the ones that blend all those feelings together and leave viewers debating, speculating, and eagerly tuning in to see the fallout. This moment does exactly that. It redefines relationships, shifts dynamics, and creates opportunities for the kind of storytelling that keeps the young and the restless compelling after all these years. At the heart of it all, the power of this storyline lies in its realism cloaked in melodrama. Many viewers can relate to the feeling of being pushed past a breaking point, of realizing that love alone isn't enough to sustain a relationship, of having to find the courage to say goodbye even when your heart is still tied to the person you're leaving. Lily's words resonate because they are universal in their simplicity. "We are done." It is a phrase that has ended countless real-life relationships, and hearing it on screen in such a dramatic context amplifies the emotion. Kane's regret resonates because it mirrors the regret so many people feel when they realize too late that they didn't value what they had. And Phyllis's role resonates because everyone has encountered someone who thrives on disruption, who seems to gain strength from the chaos they leave behind. The scene will likely live on as one of the defining moments in Lily and Kane's history, not because of the punch, though that added shock value, but because of the emotional truth in Lily's final words. They remind us that every character, no matter how much they love, no matter how much they endure, has a breaking point. And when that point is reached, the consequences are permanent. For Kane, the regret will never fully fade. For Lily, the empowerment of walking away will shape her future. And for Phyllis, the drama will always be her oxygen, fueling the next chapter of conflict in Genoa City. The world of daytime drama thrives on moments of explosive confrontation, where years of simmering resentment, buried secrets, and tangled loyalties erupt into a single, defining scene. In the long and tumultuous history of The Young and the Restless, a series built upon the foundations of familial strife and romantic betrayal, few moments carry the raw, visceral weight of the altercation between Lily Winters and Phyllis Summers. The act itself, Lily punching Phyllis, was shocking in its physicality, a departure from the verbal sparring that typically characterizes their conflicts. But it was the 3 words she uttered immediately afterward that resonated with a profound and devastating finality, words that were not merely aimed at Phyllis but were intended to sear themselves into the conscience of Kane Ashby, the man caught between them. Those 3 words, "break up with," though grammatically incomplete, formed a command so clear, so charged with emotional truth, that they forced Kane, and the audience, to confront the irreparable damage inflicted upon his marriage. This moment was not just a dramatic high point, it was the crystallization of a relationship's collapse, a pivotal juncture where love was ultimately suffocated by the cumulative weight of deception, enabling, and a fundamental failure to protect the sanctity of the marital bond. To understand the full impact of Lily's actions, one must first appreciate the complex history she shared with both Kane and Phyllis. Lily Winters, daughter of Neil Winters and Drusilla Barber, was raised with a strong sense of family loyalty and integrity, despite the many challenges she faced. Her relationship with Kane Ashby was a cornerstone of her adult life, a love story marked by extraordinary highs and devastating lows. They had faced amnesia, presumed deaths, business rivalries, and numerous infidelities, particularly on Kane's part. Each time, forgiveness had been a long and arduous road, but Lily had chosen to walk it, rebuilding their marriage on each occasion, often at great personal cost. This history made her not a naive victim, but a woman who had invested everything in a partnership that demanded constant vigilance and repair. Kane, for his part, was a character defined by his love for Lily but plagued by a weakness of character, a tendency toward self-pity and poor judgment that made him susceptible to manipulation. His transgressions were not merely acts of lust but profound betrayals of trust that chipped away at the foundation of their union. Phyllis Summers, on the other hand, has long been a force of chaos in Genoa City. A master manipulator with a history of scheming that impacted nearly every major family, her involvement with Kane was particularly toxic. It was not a simple affair born of passion, but a calculated entanglement where Phyllis often preyed upon Kane's vulnerabilities. She represented the very antithesis of the stability and loyalty Lily valued. Every interaction between Kane and Phyllis was a violation, not just of Lily's trust, but of the safe space a marriage is supposed to provide. The specific context leading to the punch was likely another in a long line of betrayals or manipulations, a situation where Phyllis had once again inserted herself into the Ashbys' lives, forcing a confrontation and exposing Kane's continued failure to erect firm boundaries. Lily's tolerance for this cycle of betrayal had been stretched to its absolute limit. The punch, therefore, was not an isolated act of violence but the physical manifestation of years of pent-up frustration, humiliation, and rage that she had swallowed for the sake of her family. The punch itself was a symbolic rupture. In the stylized world of soap operas, where conflicts are often waged with cutting remarks and legal maneuvers, a physical altercation signifies a point of no return. For a character like Lily, who typically wielded her intelligence and emotional strength as her primary weapons, resorting to physical violence indicated a complete loss of control, a moment where words had finally failed to convey the depth of her anguish. It was an act of pure, unadulterated catharsis, directed at the person she perceived as the external agent of her misery. However, the true brilliance of the scene lay in what followed. As Phyllis recoiled, the focus shifted instantly from the external foe to the internal conflict. Lily turned to Kane, and with a clarity that could only come from absolute emotional exhaustion, she delivered her three-word ultimatum: break up with. The missing object of the preposition, me, was irrelevant because its meaning was terrifyingly clear. She was not telling him to break up with Phyllis. The implication was that his entanglement with Phyllis had become so central, so destructive, that it had effectively ended his marriage. She was commanding him to make a choice that she had already come to realize was inevitable.